It's my pleasure to introduce to you right here at Black Sky Radio, and in conjunction with Ross Owens, Band of Brothers, Where Are They Now.blogspot.com, Mr. David Schwimmer. David, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Did you like that little bit of radio voice I threw out there?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
Well, I know that your time is extremely valuable.
my time's pretty good at the moment, and all I'm doing is these days is getting ready to promote this movie I just directed. So it's a good time. I'm glad we're finally doing this.
Well,
I'm really.
Your movie, Trust, is making a lot of waves on the Twitterverse right now.
That's right.
People
is it?
So I can't wait to see it.
Oh, I hope you get. Yeah, I'm not sure when it's. I know it's coming out here in the States April 1st, and I'm not sure where it's going to be in Ross's hometown in the UK, but soon after that, I'm sure. So
fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into the reason we're here. The Band of Brothers. We've been doing these interviews since last June. Basically, one a week.
Wow.
And we started off with Scott Grimes, and it's been an amazing ride for not only myself and Miss Jenna, but for our producer, Ross Owen, and his blog, putting it all together. And we just thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think what you guys are doing and what Ross put together is really incredible, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thanks.
That's great.
Let's start at the very top, at the beginning. Let's talk about the audition process. How did you? A lot of the guys said that they went in through many different auditions and they came in and they read for a lot of different parts. Did you have a different experience? Did you know that you were going to play Sobel? Did they come to you and go, "Dude, you look just like this guy"?
I think Sobel was the only character I was being considered for. That's it's the only part I looked at. I knew I was going to go in and read. I wasn't offered the part. I went and read for it, and I was really excited because the material is so rich, and anytime you get to play a real person or a character based on a real person, there's I find it. I just think it's a real challenge, but also there's a lot of responsibility. So I was really excited, and I read the book, of course, and worked pretty hard on the audition. What they didn't tell me, and no one told me until I actually stepped into the room, was number one, that Tom Hanks was going to be present for the audition,
Right.
and number two, that he wanted to read with me. So
wow.
So I was, I think it was interesting, and I guess because I didn't let it throw me too much, that was, I guess, one of the reasons I was cast. I guess I didn't crumple under pressure, but it certainly did. It certainly was a curveball. Number one, meeting him for the first time, in that not knowing you're about to step into the room and he's there, and then number two, him saying, "Yeah, I'm going to read with you," and I'm like, "Okay," one of the greatest actors, and it really was a pleasure to read with him, and we just worked on it, and he gave me direction. We just worked, and it was really great.
Now, one of our other interviews that we've had the opportunity to speak with was Captain Dye. And one of the things that he told us, because I asked him the question if he had done anything at the beginning of boot camp or during the main early processes to set you up a little bit aside from the rest of the guys to create this subtle
tension.
Thank you. Exactly. The subtle tension between you and the men, because you're going to be playing this guy who was not well liked. However, he was a great trainer. And he said that he sat down with you and it was very deliberate. And yes, he did do that. It'll be seen on screen. How did that meeting go down?
Obviously, I remember Dale and worked with him, and I thought he was a fantastic resource. What I do remember of my own personal preparation was going back to the book over and over, and thinking about who Sobel was. And as any actor does, you tend to focus the lens really on who you're playing. And the reality was that Sobel was an urban Chicago Jew who was much older and much more experienced than any of the men. He had been through military school, National Guard, military police. He was much older. And I think, just think about it for a second. If you're old, twice as old in some cases as the guys you're going to train, who are volunteers, have no training, military training whatsoever, and you're an urban guy, and you're a Jew at this time in 1942, and you're shipped to Georgia, you're immediately going to have certain, you're going to have your guard up. You're going to, and then you have to take into consideration, the psychology and the guy himself and what led to the actions and that happened in the story. And obviously, I think there was a certain amount of insecurity in the character, but also I think he was really defensive. And when in the book, details this a little more than the actual series did, but there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and he definitely felt like he was an outsider. So, and I think it was a matter of pride. This was his real shot at kind of, leaving his mark and making his mark and leaving a real impression and kind of accomplishing something, because in Chicago he was a clothing salesman, and here he was transferred to Georgia in charge of all these, in his eyes, kids, but it was an opportunity for him to actually be someone and to do something important. So I mean that's really when I actually arrived for boot camp, I knew ahead of time I was going to spend very little time bonding with the guys. And I would just repeat to myself, to isolate myself when possible, and to just keep telling myself, no matter what you do and no matter how friendly you get, when they look at me, all they think is urban older Jew.
Yeah.
And so I think the things that Dale Dye and the director, who was terrific, by the way, Phil Alden Robinson, and what we did in boot camp in terms of isolating me, I mean, that was part of it, but it was also necessary. I actually had to learn certain skills that none of the men possessed. I had to learn more, how to be an officer, really, and the rules of what it was to be an officer. And there's so many rules and so many regulations and so many things I want to, it's one thing to be in a march, and there's another to lead a march. And I remember marching and learning drills and learning, everything they knew, and then I had to know more because I had to be an officer and lead them. So it was a lot of work, but it was great experience, the boot camp. It was an opportunity, really, for an actor to kind of immerse yourself in that world, and it was a crash course in being an officer and, of course, a soldier at that time.